What if I told you that the next 40 minutes could change everything? Not in some vague, motivational sense, but in a real, measurable, undeniable way. What if the difference between the life you're living now and the life you're capable of living comes down to how you approach the next 40 minutes? Most people will dismiss this idea immediately. They'll think 40 minutes is too short to matter. They'll believe that transformation requires months, years, decades of effort, and they'll be wrong. Not because time doesn't matter, but because they fundamentally misunderstand how change actually works. You see, your entire life is built from moments like this one. 40-minute blocks of time, stacked one after another, creating the architecture of your days, your weeks, your years, your entire existence. But here's what most people never realize. Not all 40-minute blocks are equal. Some are wasted, drifting past in distraction and mental fog. Others are invested poorly, spent on activities that feel productive but lead nowhere. And then there are the rare ones, the ones where you bring complete focus, clear intention, and deliberate action to bear on something that matters. These rare blocks of time don't just move you forward, they transform you. They rewire your brain. They build capabilities you didn't have before. They create momentum that carries you long after the 40 minutes end. The question isn't whether 40 minutes can change your life. The question is whether you're willing to treat the next 40 minutes with the reverence they deserve. Because right now, at this very moment, you have an opportunity that most people squander every single day. You have the opportunity to demonstrate to yourself what you're capable of when you eliminate distraction, clarify your intention, and commit completely to focused action. And once you demonstrate that to yourself, once you experience what's possible in a single period of concentrated effort, you'll never see time the same way again. Most people live their entire lives in a state of partial attention. They're physically present but mentally scattered, moving through their days without ever bringing their full power to bear on anything. They check their phones while working. They think about work while with family. They worry about tomorrow while supposedly enjoying today. Their attention is fragmented across dozens of competing demands, and as a result, they never experience what it feels like to be completely present, completely focused, completely engaged. They wonder why they feel perpetually behind, perpetually overwhelmed, perpetually unsatisfied. It's because they've never learned to gather their mental energy into a single point and direct it with precision toward a meaningful target. But you're about to learn something different. You're about to discover that when you bring your full attention, your complete focus, your total commitment to a single period of time, something extraordinary happens. The quality of your thinking improves. The depth of your work increases. The clarity of your mind sharpens. You don't just accomplish more in those 40 minutes, you become more capable. You build mental muscles that serve you for the rest of your life. This is the secret that high performers across every field understand. Transformation doesn't happen through dramatic gestures or sudden breakthroughs. It happens through repeated periods of intense, focused effort where you push slightly beyond your current capacity. Think about how most people approach their time. They have vague intentions but no clear objectives. They want to be productive, but don't define what productive means. They sit down to work but haven't decided what they're working on or why it matters. So they drift. They start one task, get distracted, switch to another, check their messages, browse the internet, convince themselves they're busy, and accomplish almost nothing of real value. Then they wonder why days pass without meaningful progress, why weeks blur together without notable achievement, why years go by without significant growth. Now imagine approaching the next 40 minutes differently. You begin by defining exactly what you intend to accomplish. Not a vague goal like make progress or work on the project, but a specific, measurable outcome that you'll achieve before these 40 minutes end. Maybe it's completing a challenging section of work that's been intimidating you. Maybe it's solving a problem that's been nagging at you. Maybe it's making a decision you've been avoiding. Maybe it's learning something new that will increase your capability. Whatever it is, you define it clearly, you commit to it completely, and you remove everything that might interfere with achieving it. This clarity of intention is where power begins. When you know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, your mind organizes itself around that objective. Resources you didn't know you had become available. Solutions you couldn't see before suddenly become obvious. Energy you thought was depleted returns. This isn't magic. It's how your mind works when you give it clear direction instead of confused signals. Your brain is the most sophisticated problem-solving machine ever created, but it can't help you if you don't tell it what problem you're solving. So before these 40 minutes begin, before you dive into action, you must answer one question with absolute clarity. What will I accomplish in this time? And notice I said accomplish, not attempt, not try, not work on, accomplish. This shift in language reflects a shift in commitment. You're not experimenting. You're not testing the waters. You're committing to a specific outcome, and that commitment changes everything about how you approach the work. But intention alone isn't enough. You also need to eliminate interference. Your environment matters. Your mental state matters. The distractions available to you matter. If your phone is within reach, you'll check it. If notifications are enabled, you'll be interrupted. If your workspace is cluttered, your mind will be cluttered. If you're physically uncomfortable, you'll be mentally unfocused. High performers understand this, so they engineer their environments to support focus rather than fragment it. They remove temptation before they need willpower to resist it. They create conditions where concentration is the path of least resistance. Take a moment right now and look at your environment. What's competing for your attention? What could pull your focus away from what you're about to do? Your phone, your computer notifications, other people, background noise, physical discomfort, mental worry about other obligations. Each of these is a leak in your attention, draining energy that could be directed toward your objective. So before you begin, seal these leaks. Put your phone in another room or turn it completely off. Close unnecessary applications and browser tabs. Tell people you're unavailable. Find a space where you won't be interrupted. Address any physical needs so your body isn't distracting your mind. Clear your mental space by acknowledging other obligations and consciously setting them aside for the next 40 minutes. This preparation might seem excessive for just 40 minutes, but that's precisely the point. These 40 minutes are not just 40 minutes. They're a declaration of what you value and what you're capable of. They're a training ground for your attention, your discipline, your ability to direct yourself toward meaningful outcomes. They're an investment that compounds, because every time you practice focused work, you strengthen the neural pathways that make focused work easier. You're not just accomplishing today's objective, you're building tomorrow's capability. Now, once you've clarified your intention and eliminated interference, there's a third element that separates extraordinary performance from ordinary effort: mental rehearsal. Before you begin the actual work, you visualize yourself completing it. You see yourself moving through the task with clarity and confidence. You anticipate the challenges you might encounter and mentally rehearse how you'll respond to them. You imagine the feeling of accomplishment when you finish. This isn't daydreaming, it's preparation. Athletes do this before competition. Surgeons do this before complex procedures. Musicians do this before performances. They mentally rehearse success so that when they step into action, their minds and bodies already know the pattern to follow. Spend 60 seconds right now visualizing your success in the next 40 minutes. See yourself working with focus and energy. See yourself overcoming obstacles that arise. See yourself maintaining concentration even when it's difficult. See yourself completing your objective and feeling the satisfaction that comes with that completion. This mental rehearsal primes your nervous system for performance. It reduces anxiety, increases confidence, and creates a template that your actions can follow. And then you begin, not tentatively, not half-heartedly, but with complete commitment. You dive into the work with the full force of your attention, knowing that for the next 40 minutes, nothing else in the world matters more than what you're doing right now. This isn't about being perfect. This isn't about never struggling or never making mistakes. This is about being present, being engaged, being committed. When your mind wanders, and it will, you notice it without judgment and bring it back. When you encounter difficulty, and you will, you lean into it rather than pulling away. When you feel resistance, and you will, you recognize it as a sign that you're pushing into new territory, developing new capacity. Here's something most people don't understand about focus. It's not a state you achieve and then maintain effortlessly. It's a practice, a continuous returning to the object of your attention. Your mind will try to pull away. That's what minds do. They scan for threats, opportunities, anything that might require attention. This was useful when we lived in environments where threats were physical and immediate. It's less useful when the threats we face are abstract, and the work we do requires sustained concentration. So focused work is really the practice of noticing when attention has drifted and consciously redirecting it, over and over, throughout the period of work. This might sound exhausting, and in one sense it is. Focused work is cognitively demanding. It requires energy. It creates mental fatigue. But it also creates results that casual effort never produces. 40 minutes of focused work accomplishes more than 4 hours of distracted effort. This isn't an exaggeration. It's a mathematical reality. When you're truly focused, you work at perhaps 10 times your normal capacity. You think more clearly. You solve problems more efficiently. You produce higher quality output. You learn more effectively. Everything improves when attention is concentrated rather than scattered. And here's where it gets really interesting. The benefits of this focused work extend far beyond what you accomplish during the work itself. Every time you complete a period of focused effort, you're training your brain to focus more easily in the future. You're strengthening what neuroscientists call executive function, the mental capacity to direct your own attention and behavior toward chosen goals. You're building what some call willpower, though that's not quite the right word. It's more like attentional fitness. Just as physical exercise builds physical fitness, focused mental work builds mental fitness. And just as physical fitness makes every physical task easier, mental fitness makes every mental task easier. So when you commit to making these 40 minutes count, you're not just accomplishing today's objective, you're investing in your future capability. You're becoming someone who can focus when focus is needed. You're developing the capacity to bring full attention to challenging tasks. You're building the discipline to work even when you don't feel like working. These capabilities compound over time, and they transfer across domains. The focus you develop working on one task serves you when working on completely different tasks. The discipline you build completing one project helps you complete future projects. The mental strength you forge in one area of life strengthens you in all areas of life. This is why successful people often seem to succeed across multiple domains. It's not that they have more time or more talent than everyone else. It's that they've developed the fundamental capacity to direct their attention and effort toward meaningful objectives. They've learned to work in a way that produces results, and they apply that way of working to whatever they choose to pursue. They understand something crucial. How you do anything is how you do everything. The habits of mind you bring to this 40 minutes are the same habits you'll bring to the next 40 minutes, and the next, and the next. So if you bring distraction, confusion, and half-hearted effort, that pattern will repeat throughout your life. But if you bring focus, clarity, and full commitment, that pattern will also repeat, creating entirely different outcomes. Let me tell you what happens when you string together multiple periods of focused work. At first, it's difficult. Your mind resists. Distraction feels easier. You're tempted to check your phone to take a break, to do something less demanding. But you don't. You stay with the work. You bring your attention back each time it wanders. You push through the resistance, and something shifts. The work becomes engaging rather than effortful. You enter what psychologists call a flow state, where action and awareness merge, where time seems to distort, where you're completely absorbed in what you're doing. This state is intrinsically rewarding. It feels good to be that engaged, that present, that effective. And once you experience this state, once you know what it feels like to bring your full power to bear on a task, you start craving it. You start organizing your life to create more opportunities for it. You start eliminating activities and commitments that prevent it. You start protecting your time and attention more fiercely because you've experienced firsthand what's possible when they're concentrated rather than scattered. This is when transformation accelerates. This is when you stop being someone who occasionally accomplishes things and become someone who consistently produces results. But there's another dimension to this that most people miss, the compounding effect of consistent effort over time. Imagine you committed to one period of truly focused work every single day. Just 40 minutes where you brought complete attention to something meaningful. In those 40 minutes, you might write several hundred words of important content, or solve a significant problem, or learn a valuable new skill, or make progress on a project that matters. That might not sound like much for a single day, but watch what happens over time. In a week, you'd accumulate nearly 5 hours of high-quality, focused work. In a month, about 20 hours. In a year, over 240 hours of pure, concentrated effort directed at meaningful objectives. That's the equivalent of 6 full weeks of focused work. Now ask yourself, what could you accomplish with 6 weeks of focused, uninterrupted work on something that matters? You could write a book, build a business, master a skill, transform your health, develop deep expertise in a domain, create something of lasting value. The possibilities are limitless, and they all become accessible through the simple practice of committing 40 focused minutes each day. Most people never experience this compounding because they never commit to consistent focused effort. They work in bursts when motivated, then drift when motivation fades. They start projects with enthusiasm, then abandon them when initial excitement wears off. They jump between different objectives, never building momentum in any single direction. So they accumulate time without accumulating progress. Years pass and they wonder why they haven't achieved more, why they haven't grown more, why their lives haven't changed more. It's because they've been living in reaction rather than intention, in distraction rather than focus, in scattered effort rather than concentrated power. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can decide right now that these 40 minutes will be different, that you'll approach them with the full force of your attention and intention, that you'll eliminate distraction, clarify your objective, visualize your success, and then work with complete commitment until you achieve what you set out to achieve. And then tomorrow you can make the same decision, and the next day, and the next. And if you do this consistently, if you make this a pattern rather than an exception, you'll look back 6 months from now and barely recognize yourself. The person you'll have become through this practice will be more capable, more focused, more disciplined, more effective than the person you are today. Now, here's the counterintuitive truth that changes everything. It's not the big dramatic efforts that transform lives. It's the small, consistent actions performed with focus and intention. Everyone wants the breakthrough moment, the sudden transformation, the overnight success. But that's not how real change works. Real change happens through accumulation, through repetition, through showing up day after day and doing the work, even when it's not exciting, even when you don't feel motivated, even when results aren't immediately visible. This is what separates those who achieve their goals from those who just dream about them. Not talent, not luck, not opportunity, consistency. Focused, intentional, repeated action over time. And the beautiful thing about 40 minutes is that it's manageable. It's short enough that you can't make excuses about not having time. It's long enough to accomplish something meaningful. It's a unit of time that fits into any schedule, any day, any life. You can't always control your circumstances. You can't always control what happens to you. But you can always control how you spend 40 minutes. You can always choose to bring focus, intention, and commitment to a short period of time. And when you make that choice repeatedly, when you stack those focused periods one after another, you create momentum that carries you toward your goals with surprising speed. Think about this carefully. Every person who has achieved something remarkable did so through accumulated periods of focused effort. They didn't succeed because they had more time than you. They succeeded because they used their time differently. They protected periods of focus. They eliminated distractions. They worked with intensity when they worked and recovered when they rested. They understood that quality of effort matters more than quantity of time. They knew that 40 minutes of focused work beats 4 hours of scattered activity. So let me ask you directly, what do you want to accomplish? What goal have you been postponing? What project have you been avoiding? What skill do you want to develop? What problem do you need to solve? What decision have you been delaying? Whatever it is, these 40 minutes can move you toward it. Not all the way there, perhaps, but meaningfully closer. And if you repeat this practice tomorrow, you'll move closer still. And the next day, and the next, until one day you look up and realize you've arrived at a destination you once thought was unreachable. The path to any significant achievement is built from moments like this one. From decisions to focus rather than drift. From choices to engage rather than distract. From commitments to push through resistance rather than retreat into comfort. These decisions seem small in isolation, but their cumulative effect is enormous. This is how you build a life of achievement and fulfillment, not through rare moments of heroic effort, but through consistent application of focus and intention to the ordinary moments that make up your days. And here's what shifts once you truly understand this. You stop waiting. You stop waiting for the perfect time, the right mood, the ideal circumstances. You recognize that the time is now, the circumstances are these, and the mood will follow action rather than precede it. You stop negotiating with yourself about whether to do the work. You just begin. You trust that focus will come as you engage rather than before you start. You understand that motivation is a result of action, not a prerequisite for it. This is perhaps the most important insight I can share with you. You don't need to feel motivated to begin focused work. You just need to begin. The motivation arrives as you engage. The focus deepens as you practice it. The energy increases as you use it. Your mind doesn't motivate you and then allow you to work. It works the other way around. You begin working, and your mind recognizes that this is what we're doing now, and it aligns itself with that reality. It gathers its resources. It directs its attention. It supports your intention through action. So if you're waiting to feel ready, stop waiting. If you're waiting to feel motivated, stop waiting. If you're waiting for circumstances to be perfect, stop waiting. Begin now. Begin with these 40 minutes. Begin with a clear objective, an elimination of distractions, a visualization of success, and a commitment to focused action. Begin imperfectly if necessary, but begin. Because the 40 minutes will pass regardless of how you use them. The only question is whether they'll pass in distraction and regret or in focus and accomplishment. Imagine yourself 40 minutes from now. In one version of the future, you've drifted through this time, allowing distractions to fragment your attention, accomplishing little, feeling vaguely disappointed in yourself. In another version, you've worked with complete focus, achieved your objective, and demonstrated to yourself what you're capable of when you commit fully. Which version do you want to experience? The choice is yours, and the choice is now. Here's what you need to do. Right now, before another moment passes, define your objective for the next 40 minutes. Make it specific. Make it achievable. Make it meaningful. Write it if that helps. Say it out loud. Commit to it completely. Then eliminate every possible distraction. Turn off your phone. Close unnecessary applications. Find a space where you won't be interrupted. Prepare your environment for focus. Then spend 60 seconds visualizing yourself completing this objective successfully. See yourself working with energy and clarity. See yourself finishing and feeling satisfied. Let that image prime your nervous system for performance. And then begin. Dive into the work with full commitment. When your attention wanders, notice it and bring it back. When you encounter difficulty, Lean into it. When you feel resistance, recognize it as growth. Work with the knowledge that you're not just accomplishing today's objective. You're building tomorrow's capability. You're strengthening the neural pathways of focus. You're training yourself to direct your attention and effort toward chosen goals. You're becoming someone who can do hard things, who can maintain focus, who can produce results. These 40 minutes are not separate from your life. They are your life. They are the raw material from which your future is constructed. How you approach them determines not just what you accomplish today, but who you become tomorrow. So approach them with the seriousness they deserve. Approach them with focus, intention, and complete commitment. And then, tomorrow, do it again, and the next day, and the next. Build a life from these focused moments. Watch what becomes possible when you stop scattering your attention and start directing it with precision and power. The most important 40 minutes of your life aren't in the past. They aren't waiting somewhere in the future. They're right now. They're the ones you're living through at this very moment. And the question that will determine everything that follows is simple. Will you use them consciously? Or will you let them drift past like all the others? You already know the answer. You already know what you need to do. The only thing left is to begin. So begin now. Begin with clarity. Begin with focus. Begin with commitment. Begin with the knowledge that this single period of intentional action can catalyze changes that ripple through every area of your life. Begin with the understanding that transformation doesn't require years. It requires the willingness to bring your full attention to this moment. And then the next. And then the next. These are your 40 minutes. Use them wisely. Use them well. Use them to demonstrate to yourself what you're truly capable of. And then watch as everything changes. Not because 40 minutes is magical, but because you finally brought your full power to bear on what matters. That's all it takes. That's all it's ever taken. Focus, intention, commitment, action. The rest takes care of itself. Now go, the work is waiting, your future is waiting. And these 40 minutes, these incredibly important 40 minutes, they're already slipping away. Don't waste them. Don't squander them. Don't let them pass like all the others. Seize them, use them, transform through them, and discover, finally, what you've been capable of all along.